Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Guerra. I'm excited to be here today with a fabulous guest. Today, I have the amazing Heidy De la Cruz. Yay! Hi,
Thank you
Heidy.
so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so pumped. This is going to be awesome. I'm really excited to talk today. So, Heidi is a podcaster, a writer, and speaker. Her podcast is called The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. So, I know
Yes.
there'll be lots of fruitful conversation. And I know she'll have a lot to share with us in terms of like how she
Yes.
got started with the podcast. Let's dive in.
Yes.
So, one of the reasons that I started this podcast was really, well, twofold was to demonstrate how diverse Latinas are, because I think a lot of
Mm,
times there's so many assumptions about what a Latina looks like. I mean, we hear about these things,
yeah.
particularly from like actors, like typecasting, stereotypes, etc. So thinking about, what does a Latina look like, because we don't all look the same. We don't all
Mm-mm.
have the same experiences. And so I would invite you to share a little bit about your journey and your own self-reflections in terms of identity and culture.
Yeah, I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I feel like now there is a bigger Dominican community than there was when I was growing up. And
Mhm.
so I was the only Dominican one out of my friend group. We were a
Wow.
very diverse friend group.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, so like if somebody else was Hispanic, it was usually Mexican.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so I was always so very proud
I
of
love
being
it.
Dominican. I was always
Yes.
like, I would tell people like, yeah, yo soy dominicana, and
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, and like there were a few other like Dominicans in the school. Like we didn't hang out together, but it's
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, like you're Dominican, I'm Dominican too, type of thing, and it was very proud. So yeah, I would find myself teaching a lot, educating a lot about our culture and things like
Mhm.
that. And then also just like also learning from my Mexican friends' culture.
Mhm.
Cause
Mhm.
although we both spoke Spanish, there was a lot of words that were different. And
Yes.
honestly, like
Yes.
when I would go to her house and her mom would speak, I
Yeah.
would be like, what did she say? Cause like she talked so fast to me. And I was just like, I could
Mm.
barely understand her. So literally like
That's so
my
funny.
friend who speaks Spanish was like literally translating for me because I was like, your mom just speaks so fast, like I can't understand you. But yeah, I grew up very, very proud of being Dominican. We went a few times growing up for vacation, and it was always a blast.
That's great.
Always
Mhm.
going to the capital to go see family.
Mhm.
Um, one vacation that like really stands out was like going for Christmas and doing an aguinaldo, which other people, I think that parranda is the other word
Mm.
for it. And I had no idea we did this. And so I remember I was staying at my cousin's house and my dad was staying at my grandfather's house. So like we were even there, like we were split up.
Mhm.
And me and my cousin were just like up, on the internet and talking and stuff. And all of a sudden it's like 1 in the morning
Mhm.
and my dad is like banging on the door and he is like, vámonos, vámonos. I was like,
Oh my god.
where are we going?
Where
He's
are
like,
we
one in
going?
the morning. Yeah, it's like one in the
What in the
morning. He was
morning?
like, pa la calle. And I'm like,
Oh, Dios
what?
mío.
And so my
Pa
cousin was
la
like, let's go,
calle.
let's go. Yeah, she was like so excited. And I'm like,
That's
I
so
have
awesome.
no idea what's going on.
That's
So
crazy.
what it is they do the parranda is, a line of cars and they have
Mhm.
music blasting and like they go around the neighborhood blasting pretty much Christmas music.
Oh, that's
Because it's usually do
amazing.
it, yeah, during Christmas time.
Oh,
And
I
so
love it.
we're going around the neighborhood blasting the music, and then like the neighbors come out and they'll dance and they'll give you drinks, and
Oh my
it
god.
was so much fun. It was like a line, I want to say, of like 10 cars.
Oh, that's so
I don't
fun.
think I've ever seen my dad so drunk. He probably hates that I just said that out loud. But I don't think I've ever seen
He's
him
living
so
it up.
drunk
I love it.
and so loose and just like
I love
so
it.
in his element.
It's so
And
great.
I'm like, oh my God. And then we stayed out until like like we saw the sunrise. So just out
That's
in the streets
beautiful.
dancing. It was so much fun. Like that's one of like a vivid highlight memory that I have of like visiting DR during Christmas. And it's like, man, like we don't do stuff like this in the States,
No,
like especially up north because it's
no,
winter, in
that's
Christmas
true.
time. So I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so true. That's amazing. Wow, Grand Rapids. That's fascinating. Yeah, like
Mhm.
I mean, it makes sense to me that at the time there probably weren't a lot of Dominican
Yeah.
families at the time, right? Yeah, and I shared here on the podcast. So I'm from LA. I grew up in LA, and my family is Guatemalan on my mom's side and Ecuadorian on my dad's side.
Oh,
And
nice.
even, LA is diverse, but as far as Latinos are concerned, the majority of Latinos are Mexican American, Chicano, etc. Right? There are, Central Americans here, but growing up, it was like the only Central Americans that I really knew were my family members.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating, and I love that what you shared about parties and things. People don't understand, like the fiestas patronales, the fiestas during, Christmas, New Year's, like Easter, etc., is lit. Like it's
Yeah.
another level. It's another level. I've never seen anything like it. Even in the US, like no, it cannot compare. Like it's so much
Mm-mm.
fun. It's really
It
great.
is. Now that you mentioned that, my parents, when they first moved to their neighborhood, I mean, there's an HOA, but the majority, like in their block, the majority of the people are Hispanic. And
Mhm.
so, again, Christmas time for us is a big party from like November to like January
Oh
6th, right?
yeah,
Because of
yeah.
the Reyes,
Reyes. Oh yes,
yeah, the day.
from
So,
Thanksgiving through Reyes, it's
yes, it's
on. Yeah,
like all of that is Christmas to us. And
yeah.
so they were all putting out their Christmas decorations in November,
True.
and the
Yeah.
HOA was like, oh no, you
I
gotta
can't do that
wait.
yet.
Yeah. And we're like, what?
Lame.
This is
Yeah.
crazy. Like, Christmas starts in November.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's really cool. And so, remind me again, so where are you now? Like, what city are
Yeah.
you in?
Me and my husband are in Central Florida, and I say me and my husband because he also lived in Grand
Ah,
Rapids, Michigan. Although we didn't meet
meet
there,
there.
which is
Oh,
crazy.
funny. Oh, it's
But
wild.
yeah, we're both now in Central Florida, and yeah, this is also a melting pot of Hispanic culture. Like
Yeah,
there's literally people from everywhere here.
totally. The one or two times that I've gone to Miami, I've actually really enjoyed it because it's like, oh my God, it feels so Latino. It feels so Caribbean. Like this is amazing. So that was really fun.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. So always like a sense of pride in being Dominican. I
yeah,
think that's beautiful. That's really wonderful. And especially right now where, you know, uh, things have gotten really tense. Of course,
hmm,
we're filming in summer of 2025 in post 4th of July. Even that, my God, even the concept of like freedom, liberty,
oh man,
I'm not the most patriotic person. I'll put that out there. And it's this year especially so. I'm like,
yeah,
it's there's so much left to be desired, as they say. Like we're in a hot mess right now. So I would
yeah,
love to hear from you in terms of like your reflections and in connection, like how the podcast got started, because it talks
yeah.
quite literally about immigration and the American dream.
Yeah, so yeah, I feel like the fourth has been hard the last few years.
Mhm, mhm.
It was especially hard during COVID.
Yeah.
Um, I remember growing up, like I did want to do things on the fourth, and I was always kind of disappointed that my family didn't really make it a big deal
Hmm.
for the fourth. But as I got older, I'm like, my dad just didn't like crowds. Now I don't like crowds, so it's just like they would just rather stay out of the way.
Yeah.
So this year was very restful. I intentionally disconnected from social
Mhm.
media. Again, we usually stay indoors just because of the whole crowds thing
Yeah.
and stuff. But no, it was really nice to rest
Mhm.
and reset and just like I intentionally cleared my calendar from podcast stuff, business stuff. Obviously, I
Perfect.
was off from work, but yeah, it was really nice to just like disconnect. But the podcast, oh my gosh, the American Dream and the Eyes of Immigrants podcast came about because I love stories. I love
Mm.
listening to podcasts like yours where people are sharing their story, how they grew up and things like that. And so I realized that a lot of the podcasts that I was listening to were about stories. And
Mhm.
a lot of the books that I read too are usually memoirs. Like I
Oh,
love
yeah.
people stories and just learning from like what people have gone through and things like that. And so I said when God initially put it in my heart to start a podcast in 2019, it was actually going to be like ordinary people and just seeing the great things that God is doing in their lives,
I love
because
it.
there's so
Mhm.
many people who are doing so many incredible things that they don't really realize the impact they're having with the people around them,
Yes.
and people don't highlight that. So like when people think of podcasts, they always think of like celebrities and yada
Yes.
yada, and it's like no, let's
The
everyday
regular people.
people.
Mhm.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's what the podcast was initially going to be about. And then fast forward to 2022 when I actually launched it, I was actually in maternity leave. My son
Oh,
had just been born. Yeah, he was 3 months. And I was
oh,
like, okay, this nudge in my heart to start this podcast is still here. And I initially wanted a co host too. Like, I didn't want to do this on my own,
wow.
but I couldn't
Yeah,
find anybody.
wow.
And so I started just researching and Googling, like, okay, how do I start a podcast? So I literally looked up everything that I needed to start a podcast. And then I was like, okay, I need, I had the checklist. Okay, I need this, I need that, I need that.
Good for
And
you.
then I was like, okay, what is this podcast going to be about? Like,
Yeah.
I want to share stories, but it's like, what
Mhm.
stories is it that I want to share? So as the writer, I do write on Medium, and I also read a lot of articles on Medium. And one of the articles that came up at that time was an immigrant from Kenya, and her essay
Mm,
was about her coming to the U.S., as trying to like establish here, but like as she was here, she experienced, culture shock, which is part
yeah.
of the immigrant experience. And so she explained how each culture shock that she experienced like really diminished her confidence and kind of like made her
Mm,
question herself, her
wow.
intelligence. And it was such a deep
Hard.
essay,
Yeah.
because I was like, oh my god, people don't talk about that.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
when you hear about immigration, you don't hear people's stories, you don't hear why they
Rarely.
came, you don't
Hmm.
hear the process that they went through to
Yeah.
get
The
here. And
struggles.
so
Yeah. Yeah. The
I read the
sacrifices, the everything. Yeah.
everything, right? And so like I read the article and I went to my husband and I was like, okay, I know you were 9, you're the youngest of 3 when you came. Like, how was it for, like, do you remember
Wow.
as a 9-year-old? And he was like, oh yeah, very vividly. And so
Wow.
I'm listening to him like actually tell me his experience of coming and how they came from Dominican Republic to New York. So it was just like such
Oh,
a
yeah.
big difference, the city
Sure. Yeah.
and things like that. So as I'm listening, I'm like, wow, he still remembers that to this
Like it
day
was
as a
yesterday.
9. Yeah, like
That's
it was
wild.
yesterday
That's
as
wild.
a
Yeah.
9-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm listening to
No,
him
it's
and
like
I'm
an
like,
impression, I would imagine, right? Like those kind of things, it's like it's burned in your memory,
yeah.
like that's so intense. Wow. Yeah.
Hmm.
Amazing.
And so I was like, okay, this is what the podcast is going to be about. Like,
Nice.
I just want to interview immigrants about their journey coming to the US. And I was like, I'm
So dope.
surrounded by immigrants, like my whole family, a bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll start with them, like whoever is comfortable sharing their story. And then
Mhm.
I think it was like my first 4 episodes were like family and friends. And then
Mhm.
once I like posted it on Facebook, that I was like Facebook groups, like it's just been like pretty much strangers since
Wow.
then. And it's just been so
That's so
incredible,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, to like listen to all these stories. I did have my husband on, but I had him on with his siblings since he's the youngest of 3. I was like,
Oh.
I think it would be really cool to have all 3 of them share their
Wow.
experience, because his oldest brother was 14, his sister was
Mm.
10, and he was 9. So
Oh,
it's like
wow.
it's completely different. And
Different
even though they
perspective.
came at the same time, it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
completely different memories.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's incredible. That's really beautiful. Yeah, I think the immigrants are literally what makes this country what it is, and they are what makes this country beautiful. You
Yeah.
know, it is hard, right? Like I think that sometimes we're a little bit naive to think that all of these people from all these different cultures, speaking all these languages, all these different religions, are all going to just like be one big happy family, right?
Yeah.
It takes work. Right? It takes work, it takes grace, it takes compromise, to be able to
Hmm.
live in some form of harmony.
Yeah.
But I am grateful, like I in that sense of like being a person who grew up in LA, the diversity, like being, and I've mentioned this before, like I grew up, oh, we're having Indian food on Saturday, and then on Sunday for lunch we had sushi, and
Yeah.
then on Tuesday we're having pupusas, and my friends are Korean
Like,
American,
where else
Filipina,
can you get that?
yeah,
Like,
Korean American, Filipino, and Mexican. Like, yeah, for me that was normal, right? For
yeah,
me that was
yeah.
totally typical and normal. And again, like I'm so grateful for that, because I now realize that that's not the experience. That's not the case for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Growing up in different parts of the country,
Oh
or
yeah.
in different parts of the world where it's more homogenous, right?
Yep.
There's a
Hmm.
lot of countries that are basically everyone's kind of the same, kind of thinks the same, does the same. And so having that exposure to difference is very
Hmm.
rare, you know.
Yeah.
And so I love it. I think the podcast that you're doing is again like so timely and so needed, to share
Yeah.
those stories and stuff. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
that's
Yeah,
super cool.
it's been a journey for sure, but I've learned so much
That's so cool.
history,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much from people's stories, and I've definitely learned about the immigration experience, like the process of
The
immigration.
process
I've
itself, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I've been exposed to like so many different visas that there
Mhm.
are available
Yeah.
or were available. So now I don't even
No,
know what
no,
to
we don't
say
even
now.
know what's yeah, exactly. We don't even know what's
But
what.
like for example, like I learned on the podcast that there was a nanny visa, pretty much the
Oh.
Au Pair program, or I
Mm.
pronounced that wrong because it's French. But it's literally like they come for a year. It's like a year
Oh, like
visa.
a
They have
live-in
to,
nanny kinda thing,
yeah,
like
like a
the au pair?
live-in
Yeah.
nanny.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So they come for
Mhm,
a year. They
mhm,
have to go to school though, so like they have to be learning English, and then the host family has to have like a room for them, and they have to work there in certain hours. So I've interviewed like 2 or 3 guests who initially came on that visa, and with the
mhm.
intention to they came with the intention to learn English and then go back to their country,
Mhm.
but then they ended up finding a way to be able to
To
stay,
stay.
just
Mm.
because they were here for a year. They were establishing a life here,
Wow.
and a lot of them saw more opportunities
Sure.
here than what they did back home, and they
Yeah.
ended up continuing education, the opportunities that they didn't have back home. So yeah, things like that I've learned from this pot from people's stories in the podcast.
Yeah, that's amazing. I from many times I've reflected on how different my life would have been or would be if my grandpa hadn't risked it, right? Like on my
Mm.
mom's side, like he risked everything and crossed to come to the US. He got caught. He got caught once or twice too, but he was persistent and he's like, I'm
Oh,
gonna go to the US. And
yeah.
he established himself. He was a tailor. And so that was, he was our brave little tailor. It's very
Oh.
sweet. Yeah. And so he established himself. He was able to send for my grandma. And at that time, like my two aunts, right? At that time, you only had two children. And then, my mom and her younger siblings were born here in the US. So that was their story. And then my dad, it's interesting. He is from Guayaquil, Ecuador. And his mother and his younger siblings were already in Los Angeles,
Mm.
but he had come to just visit, and it's so wild. Like a couple different things happened during the visit. One of which being he met my mom,
Aw.
and so he ended up wanting to stay, and so he worked it out to where you know my parents dated and married, and
Yeah.
that was that. And so, but it's crazy. I think about that. I'm like, my God, what would it be like if I had grown
Mhm.
up in Ecuador or in Guatemala?
I
So
think about
so
that too
interesting.
because
Mhm.
honestly, my parents came because my mom was pregnant with me. To be
Oh
completely
wow,
honest, yeah.
wow, yeah.
So so I had asked my dad like, or I was just thinking to myself like, what if they did decide to just stay in the Dominican Republic and just have me
Mm,
there? Like, it would be a
mhm.
completely different life
Different
than
life, yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah than what I'm living now.
Wow, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's amazing. The stories and the journeys are so amazing.
Yeah.
And so, Heidi, I would love to hear from you in terms of, another thing that I love to talk about with guests is their understanding of faith, right? Very
Oh
broadly
man.
defined, like
Yeah.
religion, spirituality. There's so much going on that
Mhm.
sometimes having hope is really hard. Sometimes like
Oh yeah.
maintaining that sense of faith can be very, very challenging. Trying
Yeah.
to understand, like why God does the things that God
Oh
does.
my gosh, yes. My
It's not,
husband and I talk
it's
about that
just
all the
it's
time.
too much. It's too much. Like sometimes it can really be a stretch. Like, man,
Well,
it can be very
we go
hard.
deep. Yeah,
Yeah,
we go down that rabbit hole and
it's
we go
tough.
deep. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, you know what? I'll share this really briefly. Being in seminary because I did my PhD in theology, it really was like a confrontation, right? It was a
Wow.
confrontation of everything that I've ever been taught, everything that I've
Yep.
ever believed about God, about good and evil, and the way the world works and things like that. And it's super interesting. A lot of people do, sadly, a lot of people do leave seminary with a lack of faith because
Oh
because it
wow,
gets so broken. Yeah,
really?
because it gets so broken down. Right? It gets so like crushed down, nitpicked, pulled apart, dissected in class, right? To where
Hmm.
people are like, I don't know anymore, right? I'm grateful. I think probably because I'm very much like an intellectualized kind of person. I'm very much
Mhm.
into the rational intellectual, funny enough,
Okay.
that like the process actually made more sense to me in
Mm.
the end, right? The things that I learned, like it kind of made more sense in the end. And actually, too, being exposed to theologians and thinkers I had never even heard of
Mm.
was really powerful. Like, for example, I always think of like Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, 16th century Mexican nun who was like a scholar, a poet, theologian, etc. Uh, St. John of the Cross, who wrote this book, Dark Night of the Soul, really, I don't know, for me, kind of like giving the permission to feel almost a sense of like depression or not to be too dramatic, but almost like a spiritual angst and frustration with God. That that's
Mm.
okay, and writing about that and the fact that that's part of the canon, that that's part of like Christian spirituality, for example. All of those things, they actually were really helpful to me.
Mm.
They were blessings in a way. And so yeah, but yeah, it's
Mm.
been a journey. It's been a journey. I don't have it all figured out, but
I mean,
oh my
will we
gosh,
ever? I don't
who
think we
does? Right,
will.
right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. But I would love to hear from you a little bit in
Yeah.
terms of faith.
So I love talking about my faith. I talk about my
Listen.
faith very openly and honestly. Not in the pushy, this
Mhm.
is what you need to believe because I believe kind of way. No,
Sure.
I just literally just share what God has done in my life and just that I'm open with my faith. So I
Mhm.
grew up, I think we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is like the Latinos normally grow up in Catholic settings. So
Mhm. Mhm.
same thing. But I feel like we really started going to the Catholic Church when my stepmom and my dad got together, and so that's when we started to go to church more consistently.
Mhm.
But the talk of God was always present in our
Mhm.
house.
Right. Right.
We like when we say hi, it's like besa la mano, bendición,
Mhm.
Dios te bendiga,
Always.
right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
always the
Mhm.
blessing or whatever. Si Dios quiere is another word
Mhm.
that you hear a lot. So it's like God is always
Present.
spoken. Was
Mhm.
was always
Mhm.
present, and
That's
so
beautiful.
going to the Catholic Church, I remember I got baptized and did my first communion and everything at 11 years old because my stepmom couldn't believe that I had not been baptized yet.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, she was like, ¿Cómo va a ser que ya no es
Yeah, yeah,
bautizada?
yeah. A la iglesia. Vamos.
Yes, yeah. So I
That's so
did it,
funny.
and then again, like at this time at 11, the group of friends that I was telling you that I had growing up diverse. That was more in high school. When I was
Mhm.
11, I was still, I think I was in fifth grade, so elementary school. I remember very vividly. I had four Mexican friends, and so I would talk to them, in Spanish and things like that.
Mhm.
And then I remember one of them was gonna do, I think, her confession. Because
Mm.
then I remember her talking about like, oh, my soul is clean and pure, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is she talking about? What
Yeah.
like what is it? So I remember like feeling left out. Like I haven't done any of this. Like
Yeah.
isn't this what I'm supposed to do? Like
Yeah.
so did all of that, and then we went again. We went to the Catholic Church for a little bit, but then like I really didn't feel like I had a relationship with God. Like I
Mm.
just felt like it was just what you were supposed to do. Like, you go
Right.
to this
It's
church
like a
and
routine almost. Like
a
you just kind
routine.
of show up,
Yes.
do it, leave, da da da.
Exactly.
I like, in my body, in my soul, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think again, for many of us, unfortunately, we kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's a thing. It's a thing. I'll leave it
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So it come high school, I got reconnected with an old friend actually who her mom used to take care of me when I was younger.
Oh,
And
cool.
so she came to the high school, I think during her sophomore year, my junior year. So her and I got reconnected. But her parents were Christian, I think Pentecostal, I
Mm,
think.
mhm,
Yeah, because I think I ended up going to a Pentecostal church with them. And so I said, yeah, I started going to church with them. And then there was like all these rules, like you have to
mm.
wear a skirt, you can't wear pants, like you can't makeup, no
A little
big
more
hoop
hardcore. Yeah,
earring.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm,
And I was
mhm.
like,
What?
why? Yeah, like no one
Yeah.
explained to me why. They just told me the rules, right? And so I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know about
Interesting.
this. So yeah. And then I think it wasn't until my early 20s, I had been through my first marriage was very abusive with my daughter's dad.
Mm,
And I remember just like being very, depressed and very bitter, and was like,
mm.
everyone's getting cheated on, love is
Oh.
fake, all just really, really bitter. But then I got tired of feeling like that. I was like, no, that's
It
not.
weighs,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was like,
yeah, the
that's not
bitterness weighs
me.
on the soul. Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, that's
totally,
not me.
totally.
That's not God. That's not
Oh,
true. And so that's when
good
I
for you, though.
really,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, good for you for,
thank
like, moving
you.
like, good for you for realizing it and making that,
Yeah.
like, almost like a decision,
No,
that
it
conscious
literally was.
effort,
It
right?
was
Yeah,
literally like
beautiful.
a 180. I was like, this is not how I want to live my
This is not
life.
serving me. Yeah,
In this bitterness,
yeah.
this is not who the God that I know. You
Mm,
always hear like God
it's
is
beautiful.
love and stuff.
Mm,
So then I like intentionally made the decision to like grow closer to God. So I was invited by friends, this couple, to a church. It was non-denominational. It was already when I was here in Central Florida.
mhm.
I loved the church because it was so diverse. So
Oh,
like
cool.
you
Yeah.
walked in, like there was Hispanics, there was a lot of Brazilians, it was just very diverse, and I
Oh,
loved it, and people were very friendly. And then like they invited you to go to the church for 4 weeks to see if it was a good fit for you. If not,
oh,
they will help you find a good fit church for you. So
wow.
it wasn't even like that
That's
they were
dope.
pressuring you to like stay here,
That's really nice. Yeah.
and so I decided to stay, and then I got really intentional. Like I joined the growth small groups. My daughter was going. We were going every Sunday, so my daughter was like with the children's ministry, and then I started. And then eventually, like I even started volunteering with the youth. So I would
Awesome.
go every Wednesday and was volunteering with the youth, and so like this church really helped me grow my relationship with God, because for the first
Mm,
time I like read the Bible like fully,
mm,
right? So
mhm,
like we would do like
mhm,
the Bible plans, like read the Bible in
mhm,
a year,
mhm,
and then prayer, and then worship. Like this is where I really learned how to worship, how to pray, how to, I don't know, just have that intentional relationship with God. And just also like being aware of like he is everywhere, like even when you're going through struggles, like he is there, like being
yes.
able to see him. So yeah, that's when my faith really, really grew.
Mhm,
Was way more open about it, way more intentional. And then yeah, I just always love sharing like
mm,
God, what he's done in my life. Yeah, I just been since then, I just been very, very open with my faith.
mhm,
And yeah, I've just I'm currently not in a church now, because we ended up buying a home about an hour away from that city, me and my husband.
mhm.
And so I've been wanting to find a home church where we live.
Right. Mhm.
However, I've just have learned about Christian nationalism, and
Oh,
I've done some research on that. I've
mhm.
read a few books, and now I'm kind of like, hmm,
It's
I don't want to go to a church that is,
you
has a,
know?
aligned politically in a certain
Yes,
way and pushing
yes,
that agenda, because
yes.
that's not what God is about. So now I've been
Mhm,
kind of
mhm,
like hesitant to like go back
mm,
to church, but I'm very,
mm.
very much so like doing intentionally doing Bible studies,
Yeah,
intentionally reading my Bible, intentionally, journaling and praying and
yeah,
things like that. And that's what I say, like when my husband and I get to talking about like questioning God and like
yeah.
what is going, why this and that, like we go deep into this rabbit hole, because he
Yep.
actually grew up 7-day Adventist.
Ooh,
And
wow.
yeah,
That's
so
intense.
yeah,
That's
yup,
intense denomination. I'm familiar. Yes,
yes.
yes.
So he tells me his stories, and I'm like,
Oh.
whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was in the church for 30 years. So
Wow.
once,
Yeah,
so he was born, grew up in the church. So
yeah.
once he hit 30, the same thing happened to him that was happening to me with the Catholic. It was just like he
Mhm.
was just going out of based out of
Yeah,
routine,
yeah.
and he didn't feel like there was no relationship or anything like that. So he got out of the church. Because of that. But yeah, I've so that's why like we go deep, because
I love it.
his
I love it.
upbringing was very intense, and then mine I know was like all over the place. But we've just always known God. Like we know that God is exists, and we have
Yeah.
that value together. But yeah, it's like we can. I tell him all the time, I was like, we need to start a podcast because these conversations that him and I have, and he's like,
Yeah, absolutely.
no, it's just for me and you. The world
Oh,
doesn't need to hear our
that's funny.
conversations. So
That's
yeah,
funny. No, that's so amazing. That's actually like, let me put that in the universe right now. Let me pray for it right now. I need to meet a man who can have deep conversations, who's willing to have those difficult, deep conversations about faith, about life, about justice, about
yeah,
all those things. It's really important to me, you know? And yeah, there's so many people, unfortunately, they shy away from that. They
yeah,
don't want to talk about it. They're like very uncomfortable talking about those things. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, let's go. Like, let's try and
yeah.
talk about it. It's super fascinating to me. I think that's great. I think it's amazing that you and your husband are able to have
And
those
sometimes
kind of
it gets heated,
conversations.
especially when we're talking
Oh.
about politics, because we don't, because you know, in politics, like we saw, there's certain things that like we don't see eye to eye on,
Uh-huh,
and so
uh-huh.
like it'll get heated. And I'm like, okay, babe, time out, time out. We're on the
Yeah.
same team. Remember, like
Right, right,
we're on the same team.
right.
Because yeah, it can get
It's
heated
it's
sometimes.
complicated. Yeah, you know, the religion and politics thing, that's a
Oh
real
yeah,
thing. And it's so interesting with teaching and stuff. You know, the classes that I've been teaching are in Central American history mostly.
mm,
And we talk about, you know, all kinds of things, culture and religion. Of course, religion comes up. You know, I can't talk
yeah,
about El Salvador and not talk about, you know, Saint Archbishop Oscar Romero. I can't, you know, like it's part of the story. And so, speaking of stories, right? And so, students will ask questions about religion and faith and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, man, like it's like I wish that it was straightforward for me. I feel like the ultimate message is, you know, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit those imprisoned, you know, peace, be kind to your neighbor, love of neighbor. For me, that's the whole point, right? That's the main
yes,
message of God, of faith, etc. And actually, the world religions, by and large, it's a very similar message. You know, like the
hmm,
root message is pretty much the same across the board. Anyway,
yeah,
but another thing that I share with them, I'm like, you know, y'all, if you are trying to find a place like a church, etc., a community, don't be shy about visiting different ones. Like,
mm,
I will say that. I will say that perhaps that is like a luxury of being in Los Angeles. There's a thousand, a thousand different communities, groups, churches, temples, you know, everything here in
yeah,
LA that a person really can go on a journey. They really can go on that spiritual journey if they want to,
yeah,
and to not get discouraged, right? Like if you go to one church, you're like, meh, the preaching sucked. Okay, you go to another church. I'm very picky, you know, like I'm
yeah.
like, they don't want to see me in the pews because I'm so picky. I always want to like stand up and be like, no, that's wrong. No, that's not that's not what it said. And I literally have to like restrain myself a
hmm,
little bit. But anyway, but
yeah.
I love that. I love that what you shared in terms of like, yeah, your own faith and your journey and stuff. That's super
It's up and it's
cool.
very personal, like
Yes, yes.
because I really
For
feel
sure.
like us humans really try to box God in and how
Uh-huh.
like we've been taught that he is supposed to work and stuff, but it's just
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
man, the just I mean, just the way that he's worked in my life and in my marriage is like, well, if you look at how like me and my husband came
Yeah.
together, like it wasn't in the traditional typical way. So
Wait.
like it would like people would say like, oh, that's not a blessing or whatever. But it's like literally it was a answered prayer on both sides, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
like it is what it is. But yeah, God works
Beautiful.
in very mysterious ways, and I love that you encourage people to seek because you
To
will find him.
explore.
You seek,
Yeah.
you will find him.
Yes,
But like
explore. Mhm.
there is so much to learn out there. There are so many different practices and things, and it's like why not
Yeah.
explore that? Why
Why
not
not?
try to see things from another perspective and like try to see where they're coming from because
Yeah.
you know depending on where you are in the world it's completely different, you know, like there's
Totally.
just so
Yeah.
many different upbringings and practices and traditions and
Yeah.
customs, and it's like who's to say that they don't have the truth? I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. No,
You
it's
know,
I have literally had that exact same thought. I'm like, wait a minute. If I had been born in Japan, I don't think I would have been Catholic. If I had been born right,
yeah,
like if I had been born in like a lot of different places in India, where you know, any
yes,
number of countries, right? I probably would have been exposed to a different philosophy, a different way of being, you know. Um, and that's cool, right? And that's okay.
yeah,
This I don't know what it is. It's like this obsession with making everyone the same, right? Like
Yes.
everyone like
Why?
standardized, like we all have to think the same, believe the same, do the same. It's like no, ew, like it's so
No,
boring.
no, no. It's like why I
No,
want to
thank you.
learn why do you believe what you believe? Like who taught you
Yeah,
that
that's
and
a
things
hard
like that.
question. Oh, it like have you like when I've tried to ask people that they push back so hard.
Oh
They
yeah.
get like very. I've noticed most people get very defensive
Mhm.
because it's almost like, how dare you question
Mhm.
me, or
Mhm.
how dare you push me to look at myself, right?
Yeah.
But it's, I think it's
Because
God,
that's hard. That's
self
a
reflection,
lot
man.
self reflection. Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
really hard. Because
yeah,
it's just easier to go your day by day. Was like, okay, this is what I believe because this is what I was told, and that's it. Like, not question it, not push back, and things
right.
like that. And I do feel like, um, that's how it is in American churches. I feel like it's like
Mm,
you do just do what you're told, and this is what
mm,
you should believe, and not
right.
question it. But then it's like, why not? Like, you should question it. Like, you shouldn't just take something because your pastor said it. It's like,
Yeah.
where did that come from? And things like that. I'm trying to remember right now because there was this one thing on Threads that I
Mhm.
had posted, and this guy was like, this he grew up evangelical, and he was like, I got in trouble at church for questioning that. Now I can't remember what
Oh
it
my god.
was, but if it comes
Mm.
to me, I'll let you know. But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you should be questioning
You should
this. Like,
question. Yeah, question.
oh,
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely
Israel thing.
question.
That's what it was. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Okay.
oh gosh.
Yeah, because people are, they're like, oh, stand for Israel. The Bible calls us to pray for Israel. Blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And so, like, there was this article that was talking about like the history and how the Israel, like, talking about Israel in the Bible is not the state of Israel today, that was created in 1948.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so the
Yeah.
guy, yeah, this guy who I interviewed on my podcast, he grew up evangelical,
Mhm.
and he was like, I got in trouble for
For saying,
questioning
of
this
course, of
growing up
course.
in church.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, because I guess he questioned that. I was like, is Israel, the same? And so I was like, of course you did. Of course you got in trouble. But we
Yeah.
need to question literally everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. Dare I open this can of worms? There's, this incredible enmeshment with things like, people who say, for example, this uber patriotism, right? God
Mhm.
bless America. It's all the things. God bless America.
Yes.
God bless our troops. Christian evangelicalism. Uh, Super like supportive of whatever Israel does. Interesting.
Everything. They can do no wrong.
Right, 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 right. And so like that's all interconnected with a very particular way of thinking, right?
Hmm.
It's that's Christian nationalism, Christian
Yes.
evangelicals in general, right? I
Yep.
hate to say it, but that's what it is.
That's what it is. It is
Um,
what it is.
yeah, and so it's so wild. It's so wild, especially to see. I don't know. I mean, um, I think it's pretty. At least to me, it's so obvious the who there you go. It's so obvious who the aggressor is in this situation,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
the Palestinians don't have an army. Like they are basically defenseless to the super military power that the US
The
is
U.S. is funding.
helping.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, it's like, do I dare say,
Hmm.
right? Do we dare say it what it is? But that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Um,
And if
and
there's
it's so
anyone,
unfortunate. It's so unfortunate, like
yeah.
how and this too is like yeah, I mean, basically that's like a blind allegiance, right? And
Yes.
it's very frustrating. To me, that's very frustrating. And I am grateful to the small handful of Jewish friends and colleagues that call it what it is and
Yeah.
say this is not what scripture is about at
Mhm.
all,
Mhm.
right? This genocide is not what Jews and
Mhm.
Jewish people stand for. I'm
Mhm.
appreciative of that. Because otherwise it's just like it's been horrific. It's been horrific.
Very, very. And
Yeah.
if there are any listeners who don't know like the whole Christian nationalism thing, I really,
Yeah.
really encourage people to like research that. Like, I read the
Mhm.
book Jesus and John Wayne's
Oh,
by,
uh-huh.
oh my God, that book literally was like I said,
Mind blowing.
oh my God, out loud so many times reading that book.
Wow.
I can't even
Yeah.
tell you. I even had to take a break because I was like, okay, this is too much. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's just it put into words what I was trying to figure out politically, because again, when me and my family talk about politics,
Mm-hmm.
they always say that like the hypocrisy, like there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who's like, oh, they say that they're Christians, but they always vote against, you know, things that actually like to feed the
Yeah,
poor and healthcare and all that. And so it's like they're hypocrites. And I'm like, hypocrite is not the word though. I was
not
like, there's a
quite the
word,
word.
but it's
Yeah,
not quite that. And so when
yeah,
I started to dig deeper into Christian nationalism, I was like, okay, it makes
that's what it is.
sense. Like
It's
now I
crazy.
understand.
Yeah, even in Guatemala, the one of the most horrific dictators that we had, Efraín Ríos Montt, he called himself a Christian. I think he was evangelical. And
Yeah.
he was responsible for the murder of like thousands of Ichil Mayan people.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me, you know, how can one I know how, but right, it's like
Yeah.
it's so insane to me, like how a leader can call themselves Christian and be responsible for the murder of thousands. Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
But yes, this got deep.
I know. I love it. I
It got
love
deep.
these
It's so
type of
good.
conversations.
It's
So
amazing. It needs to, yeah, like all these things need to be said, right?
yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
especially nowadays, just with how rapid misinformation
Oh yeah.
goes and people just like run with it. And I'm
Yes.
just like, are we serious right now? So for
Yeah.
example, with the whole the protests that were going on in LA, that they were
Hmm.
being called riots,
Hmm.
that we saw that pictures from 2020 were being used and pushed
Yep.
off as if it was
Manipulated, right?
happening today, right?
Right. Right.
And so I tend to not, I try not to engage online because you can't
Hmm.
change anybody's mind online.
Hmm.
But I do try to do a little pushback from time to time. So there was this picture, and I remember on this post on Facebook, I was pushing back. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, where's this picture from? Who's the source? When was this
Good for
taken?
you. Yeah.
Asking all the
Details.
questions.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then they were like, why does it matter when this picture is from? And I was like, it 100% matters right now
If
because
it was
there's,
from 10 years ago,
yeah,
what?
exactly.
No,
It's
come
not
on.
happening now.
Give me
And
a
then
break. Like,
someone posted under and was
I love
like,
it.
well, this picture's going viral. So, like, because a picture's going
Oh my
viral does
God.
not make it true. Does not make
No,
it.
not at
See,
all.
I know, girl. I was like, are you
Especially,
serious right now?
you know, one of my, and this is definitely coming from like an educator perspective, one of my like biggest concerns, honestly, is AI, is all of
Oh,
these
yes.
like chat GBT, all this crap, because I'm sorry, it's like people don't want to put an effort to do research or to
Nope.
write anything for themselves anymore.
Nope.
You know, I get if you're looking up something real quick, whatever, but to pass off the work as your own, that is a problem to me,
Did
right?
you start
That's an issue.
seeing the AI influencers? Did you start seeing videos of like, yes, they look real.
That's
It's like,
weird.
yeah,
No,
it's like
see,
AI influencers. They're like, you know, just
they're like
talking about,
characters or something. Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah. I'm like,
That's so
oh my
bizarre.
gosh.
I'm like, for me, I'm like, who's watching, right? I
Yeah,
don't know. I'm
I
just
don't
like,
think there's
who's
any
into it? What's the
legislation
point?
or yeah, I don't think there's
That's
any
so weird.
legislation or
That makes me super
restrictions with
uncomfortable.
that. Yeah,
No,
it's
see, that makes me super
dangerous.
comfortable. That's very bizarre.
Hmm.
But yeah, oh my gosh, my dear, this is super cool. So as we are kind of wrapping up our awesome convo, I wanted to
Yes.
ask you about this topic. It's a very sensitive one. Like all of my guests
Oh,
kind of, here we go. I warned y'all who are listening, I warned Heidi ahead of time.
and
But
I
for
almost cried.
oh, the last topic that I wanted to touch on was about the inner Nina. So I think for
Yeah.
many of us, especially like immigrant children, first and second generation children, we struggle a lot. I think many of us had to grow up very fast, and so much of the work of being an adult is actually healing the inner
Hmm.
child, is going
Yep.
back and doing that work. So I
Yes.
would love to hear from you kind of what your reflections are, or if you have any
Yeah.
advice for young people today, that would be
Oh,
awesome.
man, I'm doing that work right now
Yeah.
with my therapist. My therapist is black. I tell her that I like am like always talking about her and how amazing she is,
That's cool. Yeah. Mhm.
and it's crazy because even though she is black, when I'm telling her a lot of like our cultural norms,
Mhm.
it's a lot aligned with the
Mhm.
African American community, and
Mhm.
we know that because of colonization. And
Nice.
so yeah, so
Cool.
man, she's helping me heal my inner
Oh, yeah.
Heidi Reynoso, which was
Oh.
my name growing up. But
So cute.
It's been hard. I've learning a lot about myself, a lot of the things that I went through growing up, and even just growing up with immigrant parents and not realizing like my parents were just doing the best that they could with what
Yeah.
they knew. And
Yeah.
it's crazy because like I do have a lot of trauma to overcome and things like that. And but like I don't blame anybody. You know, I
Mm.
can't blame my dad. I can't blame my mom. I can't, because again, they were dealing with their own stuff. But yeah, I'm doing that work of healing little Heidi. And my therapist did have me do this exercise one day where she like had me like visualize 7-year-old me and like what would you tell her? And it was just like
Mm.
just I just told her that she is loved
Mm.
and she was going to go through some things, but they weren't her fault, but
Mm.
she will get over them and she will learn how to love herself, how to
Mm.
accept herself, and she will find love because one
Oh.
of her biggest fears was to be alone.
Oh
And yeah, and it's just I'm so grateful for my husband, and also I'm really grateful for my husband within this healing journey, because there's been a lot of points where I realized like he could either re-trigger me or re-traumatize me, or he could help
my
me
God.
heal. And
Mm.
he's been such a big part of my healing journey, and I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, I told her that she is loved, that she is valuable, that she is so smart, and that she is going to do great things, because
Mm.
you know, growing up you don't see that, you don't
Yeah.
know what you're going to be, but that's what I told her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's really
Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you.
Um, wow. Oh. You
Uh,
got me crying.
I
Oh my god.
mean,
It's really
I
beautiful because I think, yeah, like I think the same, very, very similarly, right? Of, going through so many things, hoping to make it out the other side. And it's hard sometimes. It's hard
yeah.
sometimes when you don't have a lot of support or you don't have the right kind of
Yes.
guidance, to navigate these different things. And it's so true. Oh man,
And
it's
going
so
through things
true.
and not realizing that that's not normal. Like I
Right.
realized like there
Right.
were certain things.
That happened that were not
Yeah,
normal.
and
Yeah.
it's like that shouldn't have happened. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
It's
And then
hard.
like that even hits you even harder. So it's like you gotta process that. But
Exactly.
I've been so grateful for the privilege of having
Mm.
access to my therapist. I
Yes.
know 100% that's a privilege, and I'm
Totally.
so grateful for that. And because of my own healing journey, I actually have applied to 2 schools to go back to school to be a therapist. So
Oh, good for
I would like
you.
to get a second master's degree, and then head the counseling route, and maybe eventually become a psychologist. We'll see. But I do want to help me. I want to be who my therapist is for me, for others. First
Oh,
gen,
yeah.
because the woman who is breaking cycles with no support, like you said, who
Mhm.
wants to have her family, raise her family her way, not
Mhm.
necessarily because how her parents did it, not necessarily because this is how we do it and that's what it. No, like I want to be that support for
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for that
That's so
first gen.
amazing. Yeah, and I think that's also an important point. There is a level of healing that, yes, we do have to do by ourselves. In other words, like the inner work, therapy, journaling, reflection, etc. But there are certain things, and it's true, and I'm getting super chills
Mm.
as confirmation. There's certain aspects of healing that can only happen in
Mm.
relationship with another person, right? Because like you
Wow.
said, they can trigger you and or they can help heal you, right?
Yeah.
And that, you need that other to be able to go through that process and through that healing process. And I don't know if people really realize that. I think, unfortunately, sometimes we run away,
Thank you for
granted.
saying that,
Yeah.
because when I got with my husband,
Mm,
I was mentally not okay. I was mentally not healthy.
mm,
The thing with us is like I knew of him before we got
mhm,
together, because
mhm,
he knew some
Your
of my
family
family
member.
members,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Mhm.
So when I had heard about him, I always knew he was a good guy. He wasn't of the street. He's not your typical Dominican machismo man, like at all.
Lo
And
típico, no.
no, no,
Oh
no
my God.
tigre, not, no, no, no.
Que
And
lo que,
so
no.
when I had heard of
Oh
him,
my
I
God.
knew he was a good guy. So
Okay.
like when him
So you
and I
had the
started,
vetting, like a vetting process already.
yes.
Like, okay,
So
yeah.
like when him and
That's
I got
beautiful.
together, I knew that I wasn't mentally okay because again, I
Mm,
knew that I was in abusive relationship before. And so I remember thinking, I was like, okay, if I'm gonna be with this guy, like I have to be okay. Like I have to be serious. I don't want to bring baggage from my previous
from the
marriage
past. Yeah.
yeah to here.
Mm.
And so I honestly started therapy then to like kind of be more stable for our relationship.
Aw, that's
So like
beautiful.
in a sense I kind of felt some shame and guilt that it wasn't for me, like I didn't do it for me in a sense. But now that you say that, it helps me realize like it's okay that
It is. It is. You were becoming your better you. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like you were becoming a better you to be a better partner, I think,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's beautiful. I think that's awesome. Yeah. And I more and more I'm so I'm convinced that whoever I end up and ooh, that's interesting. Throat chakras are like, "Ah." Whoever I end up with, they're going to have to be a very, very, very special person for sure.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
they're going to have to be very patient. And I know, like anything, like I know there's going to be a learning curve. I know it's going to be a process and stuff like that. But I already know that there's certain things that cannot be fully healed until I am married or until
wow,
I already know. It's just like it's pretty clear to me. Like there's only so much that I can do by myself. It's
yeah,
actually in and honestly a lot of it is like the day to day, right? Day to day
yeah,
stuff, family stuff, this happened, that happened, oh, you know, blah blah blah. Like navigating it as a couple, right? Of course, like navigating it
mm-hmm.
together. Like you said earlier, I think it's so spot on. Like we're on the same team. You
Yeah,
know, we're on the same team here. It's not me versus you. We're on the same side, you know? And
yeah,
it's so real. It's so real. It's so
yeah.
beautiful. And I love that you shared that. So
No, yeah, yeah. No,
oh,
thank you, because
so amazing.
yeah, I am very grateful, and I've told him that many, many times. Like, thank you
It's
for
so cool.
helping me, with this healing journey and stuff. Because it's like, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. It's a process, but
Yeah.
I know that I need to get through it to, like you said, be a better partner, be a better wife, mom, and
Mm,
everything, and try to break those cycles and not pass
yeah.
on more generational trauma.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
Amazing. Oh, this was so lovely, Heidi. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Oh, this is a
Thank
beautiful
you.
conversation.
It
So,
was.
Heidi, tell the good folks listening where they can find you online if they
Yes.
want to get in touch.
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram and Threads. The username is the same as my name, Heidi period De la Cruz 13. And you can check out my website. The episodes are on my website, and I also write a lot about podcasting tips since I do help people launch their podcast. So you can check out my website at HeidiDeLaCruz.com.
Amazing. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, folks who are listening. Again, this is the Gold Hoops and God podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Guerra. New episodes are available every Wednesday. You can find the podcast on Apple, on iHeart, on Spotify, all the major platforms for streaming podcasts. And then the videos of the interviews are available on my YouTube page, which is also Gold Hoops and God. I post those videos on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you again, Heidi, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Yay, bye.